First up, we're at the Meigs County Courthouse in Decatur, Tennessee, for a family court case. 33-year-old Rashad Hawkins was just given jail time for failing to pay child support. But before he can be taken into custody, he dips out of the second-floor courtroom, drops by the reception desk, then makes his way to the exit. Since it looks like there's nowhere to run, this deputy follows in leisurely pursuit. But Hawkins hops over the second-floor balcony railing, quickly lowers himself down, then drops by on an unsuspecting potted plant below. The deputy appears to be weighing his options. But following Hawkins down is not one of them. Amazingly, after the second-story drop, both Hawkins and the potted plant bounce back into place as if nothing happened. Then Hawkins, who miraculously never lets go of the paperwork he's holding, simply disappears. Back above, the deputy and others look around in disbelief, and below, a few people peek out to see what the commotion's all about. For the next 20 days, Hawkins was a wanted man on the run. But his vanishing act came to an end more than 200 miles away when an officer responded to a trespassing complaint from neighbors reporting a man spotted in their backyards. According to the police report, Hawkins again ran to avoid capture, but was eventually arrested following an altercation with an officer. In addition to his outstanding warrant in Tennessee, Hawkins was hit with a long list of new charges, including criminal trespassing, resisting arrest, and third-degree assault on a police officer. Hawkins is being held without bail until his next court hearing.
Milton Watts.
Next, we're in Berea Municipal Court. The defendant, 21-year-old Milton Watts, has turned himself in after a warrant was issued for his arrest for failure to appear on a domestic violence charge.
You were supposed to be here last month. You did not appear. Why weren't you here?
My mom didn't show up. Somebody died in the family. There was no reason for me to be here.
Well, it's not an engraved invitation, son. It's a court order.
Things are clearly off to a rocky start between Watts and Judge Chris Green. But Watts seems comfortable handling the situation on his own.
Your attorney withdrew, so you'll have to hire an attorney?
I don't need an attorney.
You're a lawyer?
Nope.
Unfortunately for Watts, his grasp on the legal process seems spotty at best.
Do you want to talk about me at bond with me? What do you want to tell me?
About what?
Bond?
I'm really good, to be honest with you.
Judge Green, who's known for his no-nonsense style, doesn't seem particularly receptive to the attitude.
That's going to cost you 30 days in the county jail for contempt. Cuff him if you got the cuffs. Hold on. It's $5,000 cash surety bond, subject to the temporary protection order.
Watts' remarks have already cost him dearly. And now, he pulls down.
He just swore at the judge. Can I give you a piece of advice?
What?
You can either make life easy or you can make life hard.
I already ruined my life.
That's 60. You want to go for 90?
It.
That's 90 more. That's 180. That's 360.
Now I gotta come here and my life up. You.
No, and stop.
How many days you wanna give me now? Are you sure counting?
Yeah, I'm at about a year right now in contempt, so.
Watts' mother and sister attempt to intervene, but there is no stopping the foul-mouthed tyrant.
I don't care.
I don't give a
No,
either.
stop.
Everybody. You.
No,
The power.
Good.
Fight the power.
Good.
that's stupid. Melvin, stop. Stop it. You're getting in trouble.
This
Melvin, Melvin, listen. You're going
Who the f is he telling me anything?
Listen, no.
Deputies and other court staff quickly arrive at the courtroom for backup.
Melvin.
Just let him do what you're not going to do anything. Just causing more.
That's ignorant.
That's the way he is.
Despite the judge going all the way up to 360 days in the heat of the moment, Once Watts calmed down, the judge ultimately decided to reduce the sentence to 90 days in jail, or 4 days per four-letter word. For the initial domestic violence charge he was originally in court for, he later pled no contest and was sentenced to 5 days in jail. Next, we're in Tampa, Florida, for a Zoom court hearing.
All right. So we're here on State of Florida versus Jennifer Carvajal.
The 24-year-old is facing serious charges, including DUI manslaughter after a passenger in her car was killed and 2 others severely injured in a high-speed car accident. This police dashcam video shows the car driven by Carvajal traveling at 111 miles per hour on a Florida highway. After clocking her speed, the officer hits the lights and begins the pursuit. Down the freeway, he catches up, but as he closes in to pull Carvajal over, she whips the car onto the shoulder and then skids out of control. After the car jerks to the right, a second camera on the officer's cruiser shows Carvajal's car speeding off the highway and hitting an embankment, sending it airborne. After flying over a fence, the car crash lands into a car dealership lot, hitting a parked truck and then a light pole. At the scene, emergency personnel discover the 2 passengers were ejected from the car. Another was seriously injured inside, and Jennifer Carvajal, the only one wearing a seatbelt, had just minor injuries. Her blood alcohol level was later recorded at 0.10, slightly above the 0.08 legal limit. One of the passengers thrown from the car, Carvajal's 22-year-old cousin, did not survive. Now at the hearing, Judge Catherine Kaplan will determine if Carvajal should continue to be held without bond.
So Ms. Carvajal, on the 1 count of DUI manslaughter that still did not have a bond on it, I'm going to grant the state's motion for pretrial detention and hold you without bond on that 1 count.
Part of the state's recommendation to hold Carvajal in custody may be because this is not the first time she's faced a DUI manslaughter charge. The entire situation's a horrific flashback to 7 years earlier when, at 16, Carvajal pleaded no contest to a charge of DUI manslaughter in an adult court and faced sentencing 2 years later after she turned 18 years old. Carvajal was sentenced to 5 years in prison with an additional 5 years of probation that was still in effect when the second incident occurred. In addition to having Carvajal held without bond, the state then makes another request.
The state is requesting that the defendant be ordered not to make contact with either of the 2 living victims or to the mother of the deceased victim, in this case, Pedro Carvajal, and his mother is present with us today, Your Honor.
Both Carvajal and the victim's mother can be seen wiping away tears as the family tragedy and no contact order is discussed.
Because it's family, obviously some people without any control of their own with good intentions just trying to check on people may very well run afoul of unintentionally violating a court order, but it's not because of my clients directing anyone.
It is going to be part of the order from today. So, Ms. Pizarro, if you'll just add it to the written order so there's no confusion.
Judge Kaplan would approve the no contact order. Jennifer Carvajal was held without bond, and her trial is currently pending. Next, we head to family court in Syracuse, New York. The plaintiffs are Mark and Christina Rotondo, who filed a suit against Michael Rotondo, their own son. The offense? The 30-year-old has been living with his parents rent-free for 8 years, and they want him out. So instead of serving him another home-cooked meal, they've served him 5 letters asking him to please leave. But Rotondo claims he's no deadbeat, that he just needs more time to find a job, which he says he needs to support his young son, who lives with the boy's mother. The parents even offered Rotondo $1,100 to help him pay for a new place to stay, which he gladly accepted, but promptly used for living expenses. So mom and dad take their boomerang kid to court. The millennial, whose story was thoroughly covered by a local news crew, is representing himself, while his parents have hired an attorney.
They have no obligation to provide support. He's well over the age of 21.
is asking Judge Donald Greenwood for 6 months before he has to leave.
The petitioner is required to serve a 6-month notice to quit onto me to seek removal of myself from the premises. And the reason for this is because anyone who is not a tenant, who is a family member, who is depending on the homeowners for support, requires 6 months to basically procure the means so that they may support themselves on their own.
Now, Mr. Rotundo, I have to compliment you that you've done a lot of legal research. I can tell.
While his parents look on, seemingly wondering, why doesn't Michael put this much effort into finding a job? It looks like Rotundo may have the judge on his side.
A 6-month notice to quit is a reasonable amount of time for someone who has been depending on persons for support. You need 6 months to procure what you would need to support yourself.
No, I understand, but I asked you earlier that I said, are they supporting you? And your answer was no.
They're supporting with housing.
After both sides present their case, Judge Greenwood makes his decision.
You say you're entitled to 6 months, which really seems to be kind of outrageous that somebody in this day and age could be in somebody else's home with a 6-month notice before they have to leave.
The judge rules against Rotundo, who has no choice now but to box up his stuff and move into an Airbnb. On the bright side, he's also offered a store-level job by the COO of a national pizza chain. It is unclear whether Rotundo accepted it.
I want Ms. Davis to know I do not hate her. I have forgiven her.
Next, we're in Cincinnati, Ohio, for the sentencing of Samantha Davis. The 28-year-old was found guilty of 2 counts of aggravated drug possession and 2 counts of vehicular homicide after she lost control of her truck and sent it careening off an overpass, crushing an oncoming car below. Inside that vehicle, a 67-year-old woman and her adult daughter were killed instantly. Davis was ejected from her truck but survived with minor injuries. At the time, she was driving on a suspended license, and investigators believe she crushed and snorted prescription pain pills prior to the accident. Now at sentencing, Everett Miller, whose ex-wife and daughter were killed in the accident, shares a victim impact statement.
Losing a child in any case is painful. My children have lost both their mother and their sister, and every day it is difficult. I live with the knowledge that I will not get to hold her or to hug her or to hear her say to me, "Hey, Dad," when she greeted me.
Amid his own grief, Miller then acknowledges Samantha Davis, who can be seen crying just a few feet away.
I want Ms. Davis to know I do not hate her. I have forgiven her. I think justice, however, needs to be served.
Brittany Miller, who lost her mother and grandmother, then addresses the court.
I've gone through many emotions in regards to Samantha Davis. I have compassion for her children and family, and I would never wish on anyone what she's going through. I also feel that there needs to be consequences for what her actions have caused.
Before learning her sentence, Samantha Davis gives a tearful apology.
I want to apologize to both your family and mine for the ripple effect this has caused. All the pain, heartache, grief, and all the lost time, all the tears and the sleepless nights, all the prayers, some which you'll never get back. I can't pretend to know the pain or hardships you have all endured these last 3 years. Although I may have my own, my mind is always flashing back to you and reminding myself that regardless how bad I might think I have it, you guys definitely have it worse.
Facing a possible maximum sentence of 18 years in prison, Davis's fate is now in the judge's hands.
It's very hard to assign a number for someone's life. I'm looking at the role where her actions cause reckless behavior. The number for counts 2 and 4 will be Ohio Department of Correction 4, total 8.
Samantha Davis' total sentence is 8 years in prison, 4 years for each count of aggravated vehicular homicide. She was also sentenced to 2 years for the aggravated drug possession charge to be served concurrently. Davis later filed a successful appeal, getting her vehicular homicide convictions thrown out based on ineffective assistance of counsel. A new trial will be conducted unless prosecutors succeed in getting the appeals court to reconsider its decision. Till then, Samantha Davis remains in custody. Next, we take you to Wilson County, Texas, where the man on trial is typically on the other side of the witness stand. Attorney Mark Benavides has been charged with 6 counts of human trafficking. Human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act. Benavides, a married father of 2, allegedly traded legal representation for sexual favors over a period of 6 years with at least 6 women. The first to officially accuse the attorney claimed Benavides asked her for sex in a jury room just minutes before she pled guilty to a felony.
He had me go in the back in the jury room and we had sex, and then like afterwards we washed up in the bathroom. He said that I had to keep my attorney happy.
Along with the allegations came some hardcore evidence in the form of DVD recordings Benavides made of the alleged trysts. When police brought him in for questioning, Benavides snuck in a desperate call to his brother in an attempt to destroy the potentially damning videos.
I have those DVDs in there. We know what I'm talking about, right? Those DVDs I told you to destroy whenever they come.
But it was too late. Police searched Benavides' home. They discovered 246 pornographic DVDs. Because the state believed Benavides coerced the women into having sex for legal services, he was charged with human trafficking. If found guilty, Benavides could face anywhere from 25 years to life in prison. He pled not guilty. At trial, the prosecution focused on Benavides' abuse of his position of power.
You're going to hear he transported women. You're going to hear evidence that he drove them to the place where these things happened. He used our justice system to acquire his women.
6 women came forward to describe the arrangements and how Benavides was always in control.
I never paid him money. I always went to court, and after court we go to the room. So that's how I took care of it. I act like I liked it, and I wanted to make him happy.
And why did you act that way?
Because I had to. I mean, or else I ended back in jail.
When the state played some of the DVDs showing rough sex between Benavides and an alleged victim, one of the jurors became so upset she passed out and had to be removed. After hearing and seeing all the evidence, the jury returned with a verdict.
The jury found the defendant, Mark Benavides, guilty.
During the penalty phase, before sentencing, Benavides attempted to show some remorse for his actions.
I'm embarrassed, humiliated. I'm asking you to have mercy and give me the minimum.
Why should they do that?
Because I'm so sorry.
Benavides was able to avoid the maximum penalty, but not by much, as the judge announced his sentence.
The court sentenced you to 80 years confinement in the penitentiary in each and every one of these counts.
Benavides' 6 sentences will run concurrently, and he'll be eligible for parole in 30 years.
That's it for this edition of Court Cam. I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching. Hi, everyone. I'm Dan Abrams, and this is Court Cam.
You ready to take your plea?
I'll kill all you. I hope you die in prison as well.
All rise to the jury.
First up, we're in Houston, Texas, where the trial of 33-year-old Ronald Lee Haskell is drawing to a close.
Foreperson, have you reached a verdict in this case?
Yes, we have, Your Honor.
Haskell was accused of murdering 6 members of his ex-wife's family, including her sister, brother-in-law, and 4 of the couple's 5 young children, because they wouldn't reveal where she was staying. After the mass shooting, Haskell left the family's home and was allegedly on his way to kill his ex-wife's parents when he was stopped by police and arrested following an armed standoff. Seeking the death penalty, the prosecution only needed to charge Haskell with the deaths of the 2 adults in order to make a case for capital murder. In a dramatic moment at trial, Haskell's niece and the lone survivor of the shooting took the stand and pointed out the man who she claims executed her entire family right in front of her. Cassidy Stay, who was 15 at the time, recounted being lined up on the floor with the rest of her siblings and then playing dead after the bullet meant to kill her only grazed her head. More than 5 years after her family was taken from her, and after an emotional month-long trial, Cassidy Stay is in the courtroom to hear the jury's verdict.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Ronald Lee Haskell, guilty of capital murder as charged in the indictment.
And she breathes a heavy sigh of relief.
And a unanimous negative verdict.
2 weeks later, Stay returns to the courtroom during the penalty phase of the trial, and will now learn whether her uncle will be sentenced to life without parole or given the death penalty.
Ronald Lee Haskell, the jury, having found you guilty of the capital murder of Stephen Stay and Katie Stay, the court sentences you to death by lethal injection.
But before Haskell makes his way to death row, there's one person who will courageously face him down as she delivers her victim impact statement.
I thought, surely he has to feel bad for killing my family. And when I heard that you felt no remorse, something changed inside of me. And I didn't know what to do with that change, and it was causing me a lot of hurt and anger because that was my closure. My closure was the hope that you feel bad. I no longer have the desire for any closure because this is it. Are you going to feel remorse one day? I don't know. And I want to tell you that I don't care anymore. I'm going to continue to live my life with happiness, and I'm going to move forward, and I'm going to forget about this, and I'm going to forget about you. Do I think the punishment fits the crime? No. I hope that when you die, you will get the punishment you deserve from God. Only God can help you now.
Ronald Lee Haskell is currently on death row within the Texas Department of Criminal Justice. Next, we're in San Luis Obispo, California, where even though court is in recess, things are heating up between opposing counsel. On one side is Timothy McGill, whose client, a state hospital employee, is suing for wrongful termination. And on the other end of the table is the state's second highest ranking legal officer, Deputy Attorney General Jenny Mariah Kelly. Moments earlier, during cross-examination of a state witness, McGill asked the witness if she had met Kelly earlier in the day, prior to testimony. This particular question, an effort to potentially cast doubt on the witness's credibility, angers Kelly, and now she's letting everyone know. Gesturing wildly and reportedly raising her voice, bailiff Tyler Brooks approaches Kelly and tells her to stop shouting, and then asks her to leave the courtroom. But based on Kelly's body language, it appears she's not interested in going anywhere. And now here's something you don't see every day. A state's Deputy Attorney General about to be escorted out of court, if only it ended there. According to the sheriff's report, after Kelly refuses to lower her voice or leave the courtroom, the bailiff then grabs her hands to escort her out. But when she pulls away, the bailiff wrestles her to the floor. As Kelly's co-counsel looks on in disbelief, other deputies arrive and help handcuff Kelly as she continues to resist. Once on her feet, a few more words are exchanged before she's finally escorted out of the courtroom. The California Deputy Attorney General was charged with resisting a peace officer, but later pled no contest to the lesser charge of disturbing the peace. She was also ordered to pay a $1,000 fine and complete anger management classes. Next, we're in Shelbyville, Kentucky for a divorce hearing. The husband in the case has filed a motion that would require his ex-wife to secure her prescription narcotics inside the home where she lives with the couple's 3 children, aged 14, 16, and 18.
They're old enough and they're wise enough not to go around taking, I only interviewed the children for a few minutes, and I get it that they're okay with not taking. Your children are very bright, and I can't even believe you would make that motion.
So, in due respect, I can appreciate what you're saying. They are good children, but there has been some mental health concerns, and we just think it's good practice to do that.
The attorney is reminding Judge S. Marie Hellard that one of the children expressed thoughts of suicide during his parents' divorce. But when she's still not receptive to the motion...
I mean, it's not a 2-year-old who'll pick up a pill off the floor.
The father does not hold back.
Your opinion on that, I'm sorry, is just wrong. Intelligent children die of overdose just as well as unintelligent children.
You have no evidence to put before me that these children... Oh, listen, you need to stop talking.
I'm
you
sorry.
really do.
I disagree with you on that.
Well,
These are the
fine, you disagree, but you're not up here. I've ruled on that.
Frustrated, the man makes a quiet comment under his breath.
You're ridiculous.
But apparently it wasn't quiet enough.
You're in contempt of court. You don't tell me that I'm ridiculous. Do you understand me? Have a seat over here, bailiffs. Take him and have him have a seat back there. And Mr. is not going to come in here and bully me. Not going to happen.
But under the watchful eyes of the bailiffs, the upset father continues pleading his case.
My rights and my children are at stake here, Your Honor. You heard yourself that one of my children talks about committing suicide. Yet they're in a house full of narcotics that are unprotected. Do you not see that that could be an issue?
For a moment, it appears the judge might be reconsidering the father's argument. Then again...
You don't know what's going on in her house a bit more than a man on the moon.
Ultimately, the motion to have the prescription narcotics secured inside the home was denied, and the man was sentenced to community service for contempt of court. Next, we go to a hearing in Louisville, Kentucky. The defendant, Derek Wright, is here for a speeding charge. As he waits to begin, the mood inside the courtroom is relaxed.
Some of the best chili I've ever
Deep fried bacon first?
Yeah. Bacon fried up, and then kind of crumble it, and then you put it in.
Bacon makes everything better.
True that.
But eventually, as Judge Sarah Michael Nicholson looks over Wright's paperwork, things change when he attempts to walk away.
Whoa, where are you going?
No, not the restaurant. No,
No.
have a seat.
So I can't go to the restaurant? What can I make a call for my mom?
In addition to his speeding charge, it turns out Wright has an outstanding warrant for domestic violence.
You can do it.
He believes it's a mistake.
The case got dismissed.
We're verifying it.
I went to court for that Tuesday. It was dismissed.
Sir, I need you to calm down.
We always verify.
Yeah, but
If it's dismissed, you're good. If not, I'm going to test it.
I need to call my mama if I'm gonna get arrested because this is something new to me because this is the only thing that I was supposed to go to court for.
Eventually, the court confirms that Wright's warrant is still active.
It's unserved, so it's still good. Okay.
Because the warrant's active, deputies move to take Wright into custody.
Wait, sir, you need to calm down, okay? They're gonna go ahead, they're gonna execute this. They'll let you take some time to call your mom. Just stay quiet, don't say anything, okay?
As deputies attempt to take Wright to an area where he can make a phone call, he has other ideas.
Thank you.
The two deputies quickly subdue the defendant.
Give your other arm.
I got it. Hold your arms out. One before you can hit. We got it.
But Wright continues to struggle.
Quit fighting. Quit fighting. Taser.
The deputy deploys his taser.
Stop.
We done? Are we done? All right, you won't get you up. You're gonna walk back there real nice, okay?
Wright is removed, but he is not happy with how he was treated.
Lay on the side of this door.
Neither Wright nor the deputies were seriously injured in the scuffle, although one of the officers had his glasses broken. Wright was charged with third-degree assault, resisting arrest, criminal mischief, and disorderly conduct. Wright pleaded guilty to the assault charge and received 3 years probation. All other charges, including the original speeding charge, were dismissed.
You are selfish, you are egotistical, and all you do is take from people.
Next, we head to Ohio for the sentencing of Kevin Schrock. He's pled no contest to aggravated trespass, endangering children, and voyeurism. Schrock climbed onto the roof of the victim's home, who he did not know, and looked through her window while she undressed. He also tried to enter the premises, but was unsuccessful. Not only that, while he was spying on the woman, Schrock left his baby son alone in the car. According to police reports, the victim saw Schrock at her door and called 911. He was later caught by police outside a nearby home, hiding in the bushes. The 27-year-old's facing a maximum of 6 months in the county jail. The judge is Chris Green. Before he announces his sentence, the defense attorney speaks on behalf of Schrock.
Your Honor, he does have a good job. He works for a Fortune 500 company. He does work hard. He is remorseful for what happened. If the court will give him the opportunity, he would like to apologize to the victims in this case.
But instead, the judge decides to give the victim, a distraught wife and young mother, standing just a few feet away, the opportunity to speak first.
He's taking my whole life away from me. When I seen him trying to get into my door that night, he was on my roof. He completely saw me naked and watched me get dressed. I have to move out of my home I just moved into. Everything has been taken from me. Even though he didn't get into my house, it feels like he did.
The judge is highly sympathetic to the victim.
You know, you're a brave young woman for even coming in here. I hope that things get a whole lot better for you. You don't deserve this. There's nothing you've ever done that you deserve what happened to you.
The judge then turns to the defendant.
Sir, what do you want to tell me?
I first would like to apologize. I really did not mean to hurt anyone. I so badly wish I could take things back. I cannot make any excuses for the actions of that night. I truly wish there was something I could do to give some sort of peace.
But you can't, sir, because sometimes your actions are not fixable.
Now, Judge Green has a few words for Schrock he'd like to get off his chest.
You've imprisoned her. She won't go outside. She's scared. She looks over her shoulder. She hears a noise at night. She doesn't know what it is.
He lets the defendant know if this had happened at his house, there would have been a very different outcome.
I tell you something, you walked into my house, I saw you looking through my window, you walked into my house, you'd have had an 8-9 millimeter slug right between your eyes. You'd be dead today.
This judge isn't done.
You are selfish, you are egotistical, you are manipulative, and you only care about yourself. And I know that's absolutely true because you had a baby sitting in the car while you did this. You put that baby's life in danger. You did. It's your baby. Truthfully, weak and pathetic. That's what I see.
Judge Green then puts those words into action when he issues his sentence. Instead of just 6 months in a county jail, the judge sentences Schrock to 230 days of jail time and 360 days of house arrest.
If I just send him to jail in a short time period, I can't protect anymore. I want to try to give you the peace of mind as long as I can, that you've got somebody watching over you.
In addition to house arrest, Schrock's sentenced to 5 years probation. He also cannot have contact with the victim and must register as a Tier 1 sex offender. The judge then issues a final warning.
I will promise you something, sir. You step out of line 1 centimeter, and I will just put you down in the county jail for as long as I can put you down there. She is never, ever to see your face again.
How can you sit there and say that I killed my daughter? How?
We're in San Diego, California, for the sentencing of Regina Johnson. The The 60-year-old mother was convicted of 2 counts of second-degree murder for shooting and killing her husband and their 14-year-old daughter inside the family apartment. Prosecutors argued Johnson had become furious with her husband because of his long history of infidelity.
The evidence shows that she hunted him down. She walked from the first shot through Aaliyah's room, around the corner, followed him as he retreated, stood over him, and executed him.
Johnson admitted to killing her husband, but claimed it was only in retaliation for seeing him shoot their 14-year-old daughter, following an argument the two were having. Her defense team argued she had no motive to kill her only child, who was at the very center of her life.
There's no way Regina Johnson could kill her daughter. It just wasn't her. She loved her too much. Not on this day, not on any day.
Johnson remained inside the apartment for 3 days with the bodies of her daughter and husband until a family member tipped off police. Ultimately, blood spatter evidence and analysis of the victim's gunshot wounds pointed to Johnson as being the only shooter. She was found guilty. Now at sentencing, Judge Joan Weber tries to sum up the tragic case.
Only you really know what happened. And you probably never will know the full story.
Judge, how can you say that?
But Johnson interrupts.
They never proved anything. Nobody ever said, they never even had a motive. Why? How can you sit there and say that I killed my daughter? How? You have no, how can you say the things that you're saying?
Facing the finality of the situation, Johnson does not go quietly.
Judge, you are not a fair judge. You are not. You talk about the evidence. You don't even know what the evidence really was. None of that stuff she talked about was true. I shot him because he shot my daughter. Shut up, man. What kind of judge is that?
Regina Johnson's final words would not change the outcome of the case. She was sentenced to 80 years to life with the possibility of parole for the murder of her husband and 14-year-old daughter.
That's it for this edition of Court Cam. I'm Dan Abrams. Thanks for watching.